221B, written by Arjun Das. This is being read by Shylu. 3 well-dressed men and a woman were sitting in a closed room. They were all waiting for someone and wasn't talking with each other. The room looked empty as there were only 4 chairs, in which 4 of them were already sitting on it. There was a clock hanging on the wall which showed the time 8:59 in the morning. As soon as the clock ticked 9 a.m., a light appeared in the next room and there was a man standing behind the glass wall. He was well dressed. He looked at everyone through his oval specs without a smile on his lips. The room which he was standing was empty as well. The man started speaking. His voice appeared to the next room as an electronic generated one. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the 221 recruiting process. Only 4 of you have passed the tests conducted so far. Today would be the final test, which would test your personal skill. I would like to remind you that this would be the final chance for you to join 221B. There would be a question put in front of you during the test to which we require a proper and reasonable answer at the end. If the same answer is repeated, the person who said it first is considered. Only one of you would come through the door behind you guys and the rest would go out through your left. Wish you all good luck. Everyone remained calm. As soon as he finished talking, the lights on the other room went off and lights in front of the very front row of the chairs turned on. Now there lied a desk in front of them with an envelope and a timer which was counting backwards from 5 minutes. "Oh shit," said Mr. Shankar and rushed towards the table. He was followed by all 3. They all were stopped by Miss Angelina. "Listen, don't fight over this. I think they are testing our behavior skills as well. There is 5 minutes left for us, out of which 20 seconds is already gone. And each of us have right over that thing. So let's divide the time between us with 1 minute each." Miss Angelina looked at everyone. Everyone thought for a moment and agreed with her. Mr. David was looking at Miss Angelina the entire time. "So, who would like to go first?" Miss Angelina was waiting for a response. Mr. Shankar and Mr. Steve were looking at each other because they knew the first person would lose some time opening the envelope. Mr. David's eyes were focused on Miss Angelina only. "Okay," said Miss Angelina and moved towards the table. The timer reached 4 minutes. She opened the grey envelope. It contained a photograph and a note. The photograph was of 3 teenagers standing inside a well-furnished room. Miss Angelina had a brief look at the photograph before she took the note in her hand. "Good morning, detective. The picture in front of you is of 3 teenagers named Bobby, James, and Jude. James has been killed in his apartment while celebrating his 18th birthday. He was stabbed onto his left back and the wound reached all the way to his spine. One among Bobby and Jude is the murderer. Find the murderer." Miss Angelina kept the note on the table and took the picture. The picture had 3 boys standing facing the camera. All the 3 looked happy and were well dressed. thus made it difficult to identify who is James. One of the boys was wearing a t-shirt that displayed the letter J on it. Miss Angelina looked at the timer. There was only 20 seconds left for her and she almost lost her calm. Oh, shit. As soon as the timer reached 3 minutes, Mr. Shankar pulled Miss Angelina backwards. He took the note and read it. His eyes moved faster. He then took the photograph and looked at it. Mr. Isaac looked at the timer and got up when the timer reached 2 minutes and 30 seconds. He searched his pockets. He took out a small hand magnifying lens. When the timer almost reached 2 minutes and 20 seconds, Mr. Shankar took the picture and note and placed it inside the envelope, which he thought Mr. Isaac would lose time taking it out. Mr. Shankar came back at 2 minutes and 1 second. He came and sat in the same row Miss Angelina was sitting. "I lost it," said Miss Angelina. "Me too," said Mr. Shankar, looking at the table. "I didn't think it would be difficult like this. I couldn't even find who is the victim." Miss Angelina had her hope lost. Mr. Shankar turned his face towards Miss Angelina and said, "Hey, chill, maybe a bad day for us." Miss Angelina looked at the table. "Look at him." Mr. Isaac had his eyes all over the picture. His eyes looked large through the magnifying lens. He turned himself rather than turning the picture. The timer hit 1 minute. Mr. David slowly got up from his chair. He moved towards the table. He held the note up till his eye level. He read it and thought for a moment. He then took the photograph in his hand and had a brief look. The lights on the next room became lit when the timer reached 0 minutes and 0 seconds. All three who were sitting came in front and waited. "The test is over. Now we require an answer. Remember, if the answer is repeated, the person who tells it first is considered," said the man from the room. "How are we supposed to find the murderer and the victim with just only a photograph?" Miss Angelina shouted. The man standing had no reaction for that. His eyes moved towards Mr. Shankar. "Good morning, sir. It was difficult to find the murderer, but not that difficult for a man like me. The note says James is stabbed onto his left back and the wound touched the spine. This only happens if the killer is left-handed. Now, if we look at the picture carefully, you can see the boy at the center is holding something on his left hand, which is a knife to cut the cake. That proves the boy wearing the t-shirt with J on it is the birthday boy James. Now we have Bobby and Jude. The boy standing right next to James is wearing his watch on the left hand, which says he is a right-hander. Thus, the boy standing on the left is the murderer. Mr. Shankar, after completing his answer, took a step back. Miss Angelina looked at him as he lied to her. He seemed to have become proud of himself. "I'm very sorry, Mr. Shankar. The answer you said is entirely wrong. You said you looked at the picture carefully, but you didn't. There is a photo frame on the wall to the right of the picture. The frame had gone out of the picture, but if you look carefully, you can see it's a family photo with a boy in it. It's blurred, but still an intelligent man can notice that the boy on the photo frame is wearing the same outfit as the boy standing on the left is wearing, which means the boy standing on the left is James. Mr. Shankar has made the rest easy for me. The only left-hander left in the scene is the boy standing at the center, Jude. Sir, I have a name for the murderer, Jude. Mr. Isaac made his statement and came back. Mr. Shankar looked angry. Mr. David was the only one left to answer. He seemed like he was thinking something. He came forward. After a few seconds of silence, he said, I. Everyone got confused. Mr. Isaac had a smile on his face. So you're telling that you murdered James? Said Mr. Isaac in an annoying way. There was a total silence in the room, which was broken by Mr. David's voice again. He repeated the initial instruction which was given before starting the test. Good morning, detective. The picture in front of you is of 3 teenagers named Bobby, James, and Jude. James has been killed in his apartment while celebrating his 18th birthday. He was stabbed onto his left back and the wound reached all the way to his spine. One among Bobby and Jude is the murderer. Find the murderer is not a question, it's a task, which leaves the only question asked to us during the test would be, who would like to go first? By Miss Angelina, to which my answer was, I would like to go first. Everyone was shocked for a moment. The man standing at the next room had a smile on his face. Miss Angelina came forward and they both shook their hands. Welcome, Mr. David, to 221B. Let me walk you through. This way, please. Miss Angelina guided Mr. David to the door while the other two remained shocked. But I solved a murder. I think that's more important, right? Said Mr. Isaac, looking at the man standing at the next room. Mr. David, do you have an answer for that? Asked the man. Mr. David stood there for a moment and then turned back and said, the boy standing at the left is the same boy as in the photo frame on the wall, which shows us who is James. And the boy standing at the right is wearing his wristwatch on the left hand, which proves he's a right-hander. Therefore, the boy in the middle is the murderer, like said by Mr. Isaac, if the Starry Nights wasn't flipped. Mr. Isaac looked confused. What? Starry Nights by Vincent van Gogh on the wall. It's flipped. It cannot be flipped. Therefore, the entire photograph is flipped. Therefore, the child in the middle, Jude, is not the murderer. The murderer is Bobby. Hope you got it, said Mr. David with a smile. Then he looked at Miss Angelina and walked away with her. Mr. Isaac and Mr. Shankar stood there with disappointment. So that's the end of the short story 221B written by Arjun Das. So this is a story under the genre mystery suspense. In case if you did not understand the last part, then you will have to go back to the beginning of the audio and listen to the instruction that was given. Then it will be easy for you to understand the suspense at the end. I'll meet you soon with another audiobook. So it's bye from Shylu Winston. Until then, bye-bye.